Hey guys, Joe here, and today we're going to discuss some new cards from the Scotland's Academy. It is today the 23rd, so I'll be doing all the cards revealed up till now, which is like 24, 25 cards. And just a quick look at the cards, how cool they are, what you can do with them. Obviously, I'll do a major main review after all the cards are released. That'll happen a couple of weeks' time once all the cards are out. But for now, just looking at the cards, just initial reactions, hot takes on how good and how bad these cards could be. So let's start off with Ando Wildclaw. 3 mana 3/3, choose one, give beast in your deck +1/+1, or transform into a copy of a friendly beast. So, this card. 3/3 faceless minute. It's like a faceless. It's just a 3/3 if you have no board. 3 mana 3/3, which is pretty bad. Beast in your deck. It's Druid and Hunter. This card. So maybe with Hunter you give it to the beast in your deck, and then with Druid you copy a friendly beast. There's the 6/8 taunt in the game right now. I'm not quite sure how good this card would be in any current deck, but this could lead to the opportunities of other decks being played. Remember Prince Kaliseth being a card that was really strong when it buffed your whole deck. If you can get a very heavy beast deck in Hunter, this can be super powerful if you get this on turn 3. So it definitely leads to lots of different deck building opportunities. It's an exciting card, but right now I don't really see it fitting into a current deck. But we'll definitely see. I mean, people will talk about this plus King Crush from Down to a Brand. Seems unlikely, but could be a thing. Next up we have Wand Thief. 1 mana 1/2 combo. Discover a mage spell. This is Mage Rogue card. Mage generally right now is like Highlander Mage. You play 1 card a turn, so it's tough to combo this. Don't really see this working in current Mage archetypes, which are currently no minions. This is a minion and Highlander. Maybe in a different Mage deck if there was something like remember the Conjurer's Calling Mage with the Mana Cyclone. Could be in that sort of deck. With a Mage buff of Rogue, this could lead to some crazy stuff with preparation maybe. Where you prep out some big mage spells early, but there's a lot of mage spells. You also get freeze effects in Rogue. Could be a cool thing. So I definitely see this seeing more play in Rogue. Then again, it can be tough to combo. Like the combo part of it's a bit annoying. Remember, you can only have a 1-drop Ferocat, which is just a 1/2 that you play. Ferocat seems better than this. No condition. Having to spend a card before this can be a little annoying. I don't know how great the payoff is, but definitely gonna try this out in Rogue and see how it goes. Next up is Rattlegore. I'm at a 9/9 Death Rattle. Resummon this with -1/1. So it'll be resummoned with as an 8/8, a 7/7, 6/6, 5/5, 4/4, 3/3. This is a huge minion that's never gonna go away. Unless your opponent has a really hard removal like Polymorph Hex. They can also sap it. Like, I'm a bit worried this card just ends up being a big idiot. In grindy matchups like Control Mirrors, Control Warrior Mirror, this card could be a powerhouse where there's no good removal for it since a lot of science is out of the game. But in the current state of the game, I don't really see this being that great. Just imagine a priest randomly generating mind control against you. Or Zeph, can you answer this card fine? Like as well, like if your opponent has any pressure on board, you can't ever play this card since it does nothing the turn it's played. But you can try and put this in some grindy deck. It's just like in terms of resource management, decks with infinite resources will generally you don't need 1 card to have infinite resources if you have a button like the Priest Hero power with Galacon or the Rogue Hero power that generates the infinite resources, right? That kind of makes this card not so good because you want tempo, and this card doesn't really provide you with tempo. Next up, Nature Studies. Druid, discover a spell. Your next one costs 1 less. You can play this on turn 1, and then suddenly you have Wild Growth for 2 mana. Glowfly Swarm costs 4 mana. Fungal Fortunes back down to 2 mana. You can also discover these spells if it has been hand. This gives you another chance to get Overgrowth. Overgrowth costing 3 is insane. This card seems pretty good. Depends on the whole collection of Druid cards, how good this card is. Like, how often you're getting a playable spell. But even then, like, it's it's just free. Discover a spell. it just seems nice. I can't really see this card being bad. Just, yeah. Any crazy combos to do with this? Like, you can play it. It doesn't say your next spell this turn costs one less. It just says your next spell costs one less. So you play it a turn before, then next turn you can maybe do something crazier with Malagos. I've reduced cost swipe down to 3. That means you can. I mean, I don't really think it means you can do much extra, to be honest. But I imagine this card just going into a lot of Druid decks. At least I'm definitely going to try it out when it comes out. Next up is Wretched Tutor, 4 mana, 2/5 spell burst, deal 2 damage to all other minions. So, spell burst effect, learn more. A one-time effect after you cast a spell. So you play this in a control deck with spells to deal 2 AoE. You're not going to want to have your own minions on the board, so this is going to have to be a deck where you don't play many minions. I think this card's not great. Maybe it just feels like filler. Maybe it fits into a control deck in a class which doesn't have a 2 AoE effect and needs to have a 2 AoE effect to kill that Glowfly Swarm, if that's a very common card. Next up, we have Transfer Student. You've probably all played with this card. It's fun. Lots of fun. Different effects on each game board. It's okay. Meh. Diligent Note Taker here. 2 mana, 2/3 spell burst. Return the spell to your hand. The 2 mana, 2/3 stat line in Shaman is okay. Return the spell to your hand. So this basically is like 2 mana, 2/3. Draw a card, kind of, and it draws the card that you play. In that sort of sense, like it's almost like discover a spell, and it discovers the spell that you play. You could like say it like that. So in terms of that stat line for that effect, that seems pretty decent to me. Whether or not this card works in Shaman though is a different question. What are you going to be playing with this card? Like, if you play this card on turn 2, it's going to get removed a lot, right? So you want to hold it for later, and then the 2/3 stat line gets worse as the game goes on. 2/3 stat line is best on turn 1 or turn 2 because it can value trade. But playing this on turn 1 or turn 2, and it gets removed, then you don't even get the spell burst value and the card's rubbish. I mean, the fact that you're not always going to draw your 2-drop on turn 2, so the fact that it has an effect if you draw it later does make the card better. But right now there aren't very many amazing Shaman spells, so I don't really sure what you're going to play it with. Obviously, we're going to see more cards coming out, but the card for now has some potential, but I'm not really sure what it works in that. Next up is Goody 2 Shield. I like the name. 3 mana, 4/2 Divine Shield. Spell burst, gain Divine Shield. Okay, so you play this card. Basically a 3 mana 4/3 in a little bit, maybe almost 4/4, but not quite. There's a lot of ways for good decks to deal 1 damage right now. So most of the time you play this card and it just gets removed. And then you never get the spell burst value. If you play it and it sticks, and you get a spell burst value, it's pretty nuts getting the extra Divine Shield. Like, you play it, they don't do anything, you trade, then you get the spell burst back. I don't see that happening that often. I'm thinking most of the time you don't have great early game anyway as Paladin, it gets removed. But this is a decent Paladin minion you could play. I just don't really see the spell burst getting an effect most of the time. Next up, Cult Neophyte. Far-Cry, your opponent's spells cost 1 more next turn. 2 mana, 3/2. So opponent's spells cost 1 more next turn. This is just 2 mana, 3/2, doesn't really do anything. Most decks are playing minions on curve. You tech cards against spell decks, probably won't see any play. Lightning Bloom, 0 mana, gain 2 mana crystals this turn only. It is a dual class card between Druid and Shaman. Pog. This card's exciting, it's going to allow you to do crazy turns, especially as Shaman. With some, remember, right now there's the 5 mana 40 box by Knuckles, you can do some crazy overload turns where you swing the whole board with loads of minions you're playing. In terms of the card itself, gain 2 mana crystals this turn only, Overload 2. This card is not good, because the Overload 2 is a huge drawback for your next turn. The payoff has to be so great. Like, okay, the payoff can be worth it if you're innovating into a completely broken card, basically. So, in Druid, you could right now innovate into Ysera Unleashed, and because this card's completely busted, like, getting that down early is literally a win con, because next turn, even with those 2, just draw a bunch of dragons. So I could see it working out there. Like, but it's only going to work if you have completely broken cards, really. Shaman, as well, you need, for zero mana cards, you need a lot of card draw support. Good has the card draw support for this card. Shaman has no card draw. So when you use this card, you have to be winning the game. And I don't see that happening as Shaman, so I can't really see this working too well. Druid is where I see it more, and doing crazy stuff with getting down huge minions way earlier than you should, and those winning the game. That has potential. I'm a bit worried about the Overload 2 drawback here, ruining the turn after this. But yeah, Druid, this could be working. It's also just a very fun card. I mean, I will play it in Shaman in some decks just to do stupid stuff. You can see Mount Seller Shaman, maybe stuff I don't know. Evolving Missiles. 1 mana, shoot 3 missiles at random enemy minions that transform them into ones that cost 1 less. This Shaman Mage card. 3 missiles at random enemy minions. Like right now, you can play Earthshock and Shaman if you want to silence a big minion. The fact that this is random, you might miss the target you're aiming for. It seems pretty annoying. The 2-mana Devolve was a really good card. Devolve that you can't target. Oof. Depends if your opponent has a wide board. They have tokens, it's useless. They have Battlecry minions on board, you might end up buffing, that could be a problem. Card seems... I mean, I like the card's flavor, it's quite an interesting card. But, meh. I'm saying... Don't really see it working too well. And again, it depends what the opponent's playing, what you're trying to do. But like, it's a reactive spell that sometimes doesn't work, and you don't have much card draw in these classes to hold on to these cheap cards just to play. So I don't really see it working. Next, Troublemaker, 8 mana 6/8. End of your turn, summon 2/3/3 ruffians that attack random enemies. So this decent stat line for 8 mana, like little understated as 6/8. 2/3/3 ruffians. So on an empty board, this is basically charge face. Really nice. It's also removal on 2 separate minions if they have 2 3 health minions. Also 1 6 health minion. You can compare this card to Siamat with Divine Shield Rush. The fact that it sticks and it has a consecutive effect is pretty powerful if the opponent can't remove this card. 8 mana in Warrior though, by the time you get there, your opponent's either an aggressive deck and you've already won the game. Like they've had their King Crush turn, they've had their Demon Hunter, whatever, with the aggro stuff. The game's already over by then. Or they're a control deck that can kind of easily deal with this. I'm thinking, so I'm not sure what it fits into right now in Warrior. Maybe Dimensional Ripper Warrior with some big stuff, but I don't see that deck working for Warrior right now unless there's more support for it. I like the card, it's cool, but I don't see it working in a Warrior deck. Could be top end in a mid-range deck, but considering the stuff other decks are doing, it's tough to play this. Like if your opponent's played a Siamat, or your opponent's played Power of Creation, or your opponent's played... You can't really play this card into them. So... But considering it's proactive, wouldn't be surprised if it did end up seeing some sort of play somewhere. Next up being First Day of School. 0 mana, add 2 random 1-cost minions to your hand. So you can kind of read this as... It's like a 1-drop that draws a 1-drop, or like 1-drop that adds a 1-drop to your hand. But it's obviously more flexible than that. Paladin needs 1-drops to combo with Hand of Adal. How good is a random 1-drop? That I don't really know. I'd have to look at all the 1-drops, which I'm not going to do right now. I'm worried the average 1-drop is too weak based off a card like Jar Dealer. You can compare this card to Jar Dealer pretty well, I think. Jar Dealer's just not enough stats. I guess you can also compare this card to Firefly, right? Really depends how good the average 1-drop is. It could be good, but is this card saving Paladin at the moment? No. It's a decent card though. Okay, an aggressive Paladin deck. Helps you spread nice and wide. I think the card's like good. Okay, like comparable power to Firefly, right? Next up, Onyx Mage Scribe. 6 mana 4/9 spellburst, add 2 random spells from your class to your hand. 6 mana 4/9 dragon. So could this be the dragon that some classes are missing when they need a dragon tag? Maybe. Although I don't see it. It's a minion, you play it. Does nothing the turn it's played to affect the board. compare this card maybe to Cobalt Spellkin that gives exactly the 1 mana spells that only sees playing really Demon Hunter, right? Although this has a better stat for the mana. Can't really see this card working, especially because you have to play a spell with it, and like you don't really have many 0 mana spells, right, to play, so you're playing this later. I don't know, it seems awkward. Frazzled Freshman. 1 mana, 1/4. Wow, that's a lot of stats for 1 mana. Late to bed, early to rise, makes a student unable to open her eyes. Frazzled Freshman. It's meh. 1 mana, 1/4. This card would be very powerful in other classes, but right now the way Priest works is entirely reliant on Galakrond. I don't see this card working great in a Galakrond deck. I can see this card being very strong in the future in Priest. I mean, this card is great target to buff. Like, you can compare this with, there's that 2 mana 1/5 upgradable Framebot, but this is a lot better than that at 1 mana. It's gonna, like, this card turn 1 is contest every other 1-drop in the game, like, and trades favorably against a lot of them. I just don't see what this works in Priest. Like, a lot of the time, especially as well, a deck without card draw, a deck that's not trying to be aggressive, and like you want your fine being reactive as Priest. This is a terrible draw late in the game as well as a 1-attack minion. Don't really see it working. Next up, Combustion. Deal 4 damage to a minion. Any excess damages both neighbors. So they so they have 3 2/2s on board. You hit the middle 2/2, both the adjacent 2/2s will die. The 3 mana deal 4 is too weak on a spell. This is kind of like 3 mana deal. It's tough to get the excess damage sometimes. Let's say it was 3 mana deal 5. Would 3 mana deal 5 be good enough? And it's very versatile. Compare this card to Volcanic Potion. I mean, it's a reactive spell again, so it's like a tech card against certain decks. If people are playing 3 2/2s on turn 2, on turn 3, then you play this to react to them, right? But I don't see this card being amazingly reactive. You have like Flame Ward already in Mage, which is doing better job of clearing wide boards early. Don't think this gets into Highlander Mage, but again, it's just a tech based on the meta. But I don't see this working too well. Seems pretty meh, especially later in the game when people are playing big minions. Doesn't really do much. Next up, Headmaster Kel'Thuzad. 5 mana 4/6 spell burst. If the spell destroys any minions, summon them. Whoa. So this card can create huge tempo swings, nutty in any decks with cheap removal spells. So we're thinking Shadowward Death, insane. Like this Shadowward Death, get their huge minion, especially if it's like King Crush. Whoa. This is the 5-drop, 4/6 is too weak, but it is kind of must kill. So that's nice. Works well in any class. Yeah, there isn't that much cheap removal going on right now. You could play it with like like a lightning bolt. Druid doesn't have any removal. Arden, what does that have for removal spells? Like nothing. Shaman does stuff like hexing. Demon Hunter with Eye Beam, maybe. I see this more working Priest. Maybe in Mage. Although Mage, what's Mage doing like this plus? It's tough to see what the spell is happening, what spell is going on here to destroy the minions. Maybe with reduced cost spells, you could, or something like you can play this and cheat stuff. But it's mainly see it in Priest, where you still there, where it's like a mind control kind of for cheaper with Shadowward Death. I think it's the most broken combo. It does look nutty on paper, but I just don't see how many spells are killing your opponent's minions. At the same time, it's like playing these, like, you can't play this and you have to play this and Brawl and then win the Brawl, for instance. Like, it's not going to happen. It just seems tough. Although maybe because of its stat line, it does stick more than I think. We'll see. The Old Dancer, 4 mana 4/4. Rogue Warrior, Battlecry, summon a random minion with cost equal to your weapon's attack. So right now, let's just start with Rogue. Weapon's attack is basically always 1. So 4 mana 4/4, summon a 1-drop. I mean, is that even bad? You're summoning a 2/1. Yeah, it's already what, like a 6/5? Wait a second. Just play this with a 1-attack dagger. I mean, in Warrior, you don't have the weapon always, but you have Corsair cast. You have the weapon a lot. The weapon has 2-attack, so that's already 4-drop plus a 2-attack weapon. The thing about it is, if you don't have a weapon equipped, this card is awful. And having to hold your weapon back and not swing it, for instance in Rogue, when you might want to remove their minion, is already a drawback from this card. And we said that this could lead to different builds, right? You could have the Hook Scimitar, you could have Waggle Pick, although that doesn't work great with this card. Deadly Poison, maybe, but I don't think you're going away from Galakrond Rogue right now. So, but then I mean, I'm saying this is already a good card for its stats. If it's just something a 2/1, okay, so I don't see the potential with this. And we should have to see how often you don't have a weapon equipped, basically. It does seem pretty decent. Next up, Infiltrator Lillian. Lillian Voss from the previous expansion. It's back, but now different. Okay. Stealth 4/2. Death Rattle summon a 4/2 Forsaken Lillian that attacks a random enemy. Right, so this... You already see this stat line is on Jungle Panther, a card that sees no play, but this could be like... Is this guaranteed like 8 face damage? Maybe. Depends how well Rogue is fitting into the meta. If your opponents are getting on board faster than you, then this ends up, like the Death Rattle will end up hitting tokens, which is not good. Also, just a 4/2. Like, it is stealthy, so your opponent can't interact with it. Like, you play it, next turn you go face, then they kill it, and then it could go face again. It's a lot of face damage. Your opponent does control how it attacks to an extent, though, because they can play minions. But even this dealing 8 damage is okay. Can fit in Stealth Rogue as well, maybe. This card seems... I'm not too sure about this card. I have to play it a bit to see how often the attack is attacking different things. Hard to quite imagine it. It's a cool effect. Could be powerful. I have to see. I have to see what other cards get printed as well, right? If there's more stealth support happening. Rogue, that could be a thing too. Next up, Cycle of Hatred. 7 mana, deal 3 to all minions, summon a 3/3 spirit for each minion killed. I think this card's just bad. By turn 7, your opponent's minions aren't really susceptible to a 3 damage AoE unless you can pre-damage them. So situational. I mean, obviously, if the board has... They have a Glowfly Swarm board. I keep on saying Glowfly Swarm, and that card's kind of often seen play at the moment. Like, if they have a wide board of tokens, this card swings the entire board. It's insane. I mean, I'm looking at the classes that are seen playing now. Hunter doesn't have a wide board of tokens. Warrior doesn't have a wide board of tokens. This is the most two popular classes. It's just a tech card, basically. Right now, I wouldn't play this in my control, Demon Hunter. Priest doesn't play any wide token stuff. You're not going to play this card. Also, you have to remember, in Demon Hunter, you're playing Outcast cards. This is going to screw your Outcast cards. You can't play cards that are that expensive in Demon Hunter. Like, you need to play Skull of Gul'dan in your deck. So this screwing it, I just don't see it working. Like, expensive cards get worse in Demon Hunter than they are in any of the class, which is a worry for any expensive card that's printed. Next up is Brittlebone Destroyer. 1 3/3. If your hero's health changed this turn, destroy minion. Sick card, cool card. Priest Warlock. So obviously works with both the classes' hero power plus playing this on turn 6. So basically turn 6, destroy an enemy minion with a 3/3. I mean, I'm already thinking of Rotten Drake, which is nuts in comparison. Thinking how much worth is the body compared to the awkwardness of this card and it only being effective turn 6+. Like, you already have Celadan in Warlock, for instance, 6 mana, 3/3 destroy a minion. Although this is kind of draw a card plus that. Are there other ways of changing your hero's health? There's like Rain of Fire. I mean, situational reactive card. Changing your health can be something you don't want to do on your turn. I mean, would you play a 6-mana 3/3 destroying minion? Why not just play Shadowwood Death and Priest? You already have Time Rip. I don't see it working in the current Priest deck. Warlock. Tap plus this, Rain of Fire plus this. I honestly don't see it happening. Maybe because you have Neverset Thrasher, you can play this on turn 4. That I think is the best use of this card, is Neverset Thrasher on 3 into this on 4. Don't think that's happening often enough. Not seeing this card personally. Don't see this card working. Next up, Bone Web Egg. 2-mana O2, Death Rattle, summon 2/2/1 spiders. If you discard this, trigger its Death Rattle. So, discarding this card, summoning 2/2/1 spiders, great. 4/2 stats for when you discard a card, awesome, awesome, perfect. Great with discard. How can you discard right now? Soulfire and the 2/1 that discards the highest cost card. This isn't going to be your highest cost card in hand, most likely. Soulfire is random, so the discard effect needs more support. Death Rattle, summon 2/2/1 spiders if you just play this card. Right now we have the Egg in the game, the O3 that summons a 3/4. 3/4 is better than 2/2/1s. And this card really struggled to see play in Zoo because there's not enough support for the card. Before, when an Egg was good in Zoo, you had Power Overwhelming, Abusive Sergeant, Defender of Argus. Now you just have the Evil Conscriptor. I don't think there's enough ways to pop an Egg for this to be played, but we are coming to a card that does pop an Egg soon. So if they put support in for popping eggs, the card definitely becomes good. But right now, I don't think there's enough support. Playing a 0-attack creature is just too slow, especially when Zoo's main objective is to shut down decks before they can get their power turns. You need to be playing high attack minions, not low attack minions. Next up, Disciplinarian Gandling. 4-mana 3/6. After you play Min, destroy it and summon a 4/4 failed student. So insane with the Egg. This card is kind of bonkers. If it sticks, all of your small rubbish minions in hand become 4/4s, which is just nuts. Obviously, it means if you have any expensive cards, they could get worse. I'm a bit worried about a deck with this card. If you build around this card, like if I'm playing against this deck and I can't remove it because I am playing Druid or something, I don't have a removal spell for a 3/6, so I can't remove this card and I just lose. It seems like a not very fun card design because it sticks and you win, or it doesn't stick and you lose because you built a deck around it with those cheap minions. So I don't really like this card very much. It's dual class Priest Warlock. Priest has no card draw, so you can't really, and then it doesn't have aggro support, so you can't really play a bunch of small minions. So I don't really, basically not a Priest card. Goodbye, can eat my words on this one. Warlock has the card draw support. Currently, you play the Imprisoned Scrap Imp and you have tons of draw. Like, this isn't great if you've buffed your hand with the Imprisoned Scrap Imp, right? Bit annoying in that sense. Definitely seems like you could build your Zoo deck around this card. Even a card like Wisp with this seems like a nutty turn. Although it's tough to put Wisp in a deck because of the various drawbacks of having Wisp and floating mana on previous turns, right? Probably not going to end up with Wisp in a deck. I mean, if this card works, I kind of hate it. We'll see, though. We'll see. Definitely going to have to try it out. It'd be fun to play with at the start, but I can imagine, for this stick, ugh. Next up, Flesh Giant. Costs 1 less for each time your hero's health has changed during your turn. Priest, Warlock. So how often does your health change in a game? This is a big question. So right now, in a deck like Questlock, how often is your hero changing? So you have tap. You're tapping like turn 2, turn 3 maybe. You're not going to tap every turn, right? So then you have Rain of Fire, but you only want to play that. You don't just want to play Rain of Fire to reduce this card's cost. You want to be playing the card anyway. You have Aronati Broodsmith, Nether Breath. I wonder if they're going to print more support for this, probably with your health changing. There aren't that many ways to change your health. When do you need to play an 8? How much mana does it cost? So Mountain Giant, 4 mana 8 on turn 4. You're not going to get this card to 4 mana on turn 4, so I don't see it seeing play. I don't see it working that well. Maybe, but you're going to get this card to 0 at some point, and then you can do some stuff with it on 0. Shadow Flame, Sunfury Protector. Right now, Warlock control is just Questlock, Galalock. Don't really see this working either of them. There needs to be a new type of Warlock, which is going to need to be more support for that archetype. I have to have a tap Warlock deck without Mountain Giant, though. Unless it's doing something else, which is what the Galalock and Questlock have given us conditions. You need to have more support for having a large hand, I guess. If you're going to be tapping a lot to activate this card. In Priest, I mean, remember that the Priest deck, which the Grave Horror Priest deck is kind of like Grave Horror, which you had to cast 12 spells. This you have to change your health a lot. You can heal a bunch. Doesn't have Taunt though, so you're not going to do the same Grave Horror stuff with this card. I mean, any card that can reduce to 0 has potential to do stupid stuff, but I'm thinking this card's going to take too long to get reduced. I mean, we need to see what support gets printed for changing your hero's health total, because right now I'm not so sure. But yeah, that's all of the current cards there. Right, with this also just released is Ace Hunter Kreen. Your other characters are immune while attacking. Hunter Ace just released this one. It's his card, Hunter Ace, Ace Hunter. 2/4 for 3. Demon Hunter and its Hunter. So this, right now, your other characters are immune while attacking. So this means all of the minions and your face are immune while attacking. You can take some crazy value trades. Right now, so you say I play this on turn 3, I can attack with my Umberwing maybe. Maybe I have a 2/2 that trades their 2/2. There was a card called Dawn Speaker, which made your other minion immune, never saw play. 2/4 isn't a great body to play. There's already Blur you could play with your weapon rather than this minion. This is probably better than Blur. I don't see this working too well in Hunter. Because you don't have weapons. It seems pretty meh. Like very okay. I don't want to miss something with this. I mean, obviously with Warglaves, but we have Blur, so I don't really see it. Then we have Mozuki, Master Duelist. After you cast a spell, gain spell damage +1. 5 mana 3/8. That's really strong. With this effect, you could do some crazy stuff with this. This is like, oh my. Sorcerer's Apprentice with this card. Whoa. Like, can you do some, like, so you play this in, like, later in the game, you've stalled, because you're mage, you can do a lot of stalling. You play this, you play Sork, you like Ray, Evocation, oh my, and then how much spell damage can you get? Oh, this sticks as well, so 5 mana 3/8. People can't remove that. This card seems potentially crazy. There is a 5 mana 2/7 in the game right now that gains +2 spell damage each turn. And often as mage, you have to be reactive all the time. It's tough to be able to be proactive. So you might struggle. This card isn't. This card's doing nothing the turn it's played. But the fact that could this be a win condition in a deck? I mean, how many spells can you play in a turn? How big can you make your hand? Like, say you play no minion mage right now, and you play this as a minion and Sork. You reduce the cost of stuff with Incantus Flow. There's so many spells in a turn. I'm already excited to play this card. In some crazy mage deck. Freeze Mage back, maybe? We'll have to see. We'll have to see. See what other support Freeze Mage gets, maybe. But, yep, that's all the cards so far that I've seen. I will be doing more videos on the new cards, so look forward to that. But for now, bye-bye, guys.